Cartier City Expats Club is a non-profit social organisation and our speakers are volunteers. The club as such assumes no responsibility or liability for the professional reputation of or the quality of services provided by the speaker today.
We'd like to welcome you to the Wellness Center, and I asked him what his job was, and he says he's just a go-for-a worker, a counselor, but he says the real boss is his wife, who's sitting next to him here. She actually owns the business and tells him what to do. However, he's going to talk today about hormone changes as we get older. And anybody here getting older? I didn't think so, not too many people. But things happen to your hormones when you get older, and that has certain effects on you. And what can you do about it? He works at a wellness center that I believe is on the corner of Klang and 3rd Road, right? Right there on the corner. I know I turn in toward Big C Extra, and I see the place almost every time I go that way. So if you want to visit it, that's where he is. Tim, come and give us some good advice.
Don't be nervous. I'm not nervous. Thank you. Thank you, Roger. I haven't been here in about 2 years. I gave a talk back in 2017, so a lot of the information I have that I will present today is probably going to be things that you've never heard of unless you're really into this particular subject. Okay. So I'm going to take a different approach today when I talk about the hormone replacement therapy. I'm going to touch briefly on women, because women do have hormone problems as well. In fact, women have been treated for hormone replacement therapy since 1940. Men have been ignored. The first time we started being treated was in the 90s. So it's the time for men now that we take care of men and that we monitor their hormones and make their lives better. So the name of my clinic is Maximum Performance Wellness Center, and as Roger said, we're here in Pattaya. We've been here since 2012, and we're also in Bangkok near Sukhumvit, near Sok. So, and then we're expanding to other cities as well. So, since the topic today is aging. All right, so everybody knows some people who look good for their age, some people don't look so good for their age. Some people have comorbidities, disease states at a younger age, and others who get it when they're older. So this is all the process. This is all the process of. This is all the process of aging. So physiological function decreases as you get older, and it reaches a certain threshold where the disease becomes present. So let me give you an example: insulin resistance, which means that insulin is responsible for controlling sugar in your body. Now, I would venture to say that 80 to 90% of all the men I see in our clinic have some form of insulin resistance. What does that mean? That means that their insulin is not as efficient as it was when they were younger. It could be many things. It could be less lean mass in the body, it could be receptor problems, it could be diet, lack of exercise. There's too many reasons why that could happen, and that's a whole different topic. So everything happens with other hormones too. Thyroid function, testosterone function, in women, estrogen function. All of these things lose efficiency. You're going to hear me say this word a lot. When we're young, our body is very efficient. It knows how to operate. You can get away with doing things that you shouldn't be doing because your body's very efficient. Now when you're older, things don't work quite the way they used to. And for some people, it's a little more significant than others. So, all right. The main things that we see that are manifested in aging is bones and joints, your kidney function, urinary function, your eyes, your ears. Now you need glasses, you can't hear so well, foggy thinking, in severe cases dementia, heart function, immune system, and your endocrine system. So today we're going to talk about endocrine system. But the take-home message here is that unfortunately, everything goes down as you get older. Everything becomes less efficient. So the common endocrine disorders are diabetes, we kind of touched about that. Insulin resistance is the beginning stages of diabetes. And just because you have insulin resistance doesn't mean you have diabetes. So there comes a crossroads in your life where if you take one path, you can maintain health and get healthier. If you continue down the same path, you're going to get diabetes. And diabetes has a whole host of other problems that it can cause that are severe. Hypothyroid, which is underactivity of the thyroid. In general, women have hypothyroid when they're younger. Men have hypothyroid when they're older. So you rarely see young men having thyroid problems, but it's very common to see women. Hyperthyroid is different. That is more of a genetic defect. That can happen at any age. Hypopituitarism, so what does that mean? So the ones that we're concerned about are hypogonadism, which is low testosterone, low production of testosterone, low efficiency of testosterone. Menopause, which for women is low progesterone production, low estrogen production, and low growth hormone production. So I'm not really going to talk a lot about the growth hormone. Again, that's another topic that can encompass a whole lecture. So let's look at the women first because they're always the most complicated. This is a typical cycle for a woman. You can see there's diurnal patterns of estrogen goes up, estrogen comes down, progesterone goes up, luteinizing hormonal follicle stimulation. Their testosterone levels are pretty much flatline throughout the whole process. So testosterone does have a benefit for women, but it's more of a supportive role. Whereas for men, it's a very significant role. For women, more of the progesterone estrogen is more important for them for proper function. So, as we see, this is what we call ovulation. So the time for where a woman is the most fertile is during this time. Everybody has heard of premenstrual syndrome. I'm sure we've all dated women or had wives who've had this. This is where that problem is. Usually around day 20, day 21. A typical cycle has 28 days. The first day of menses we call day 1. So bleeding, in other words. So that could be 3 days, 5 days, and in not so common instances, 7 days. Now, the severity of that can vary as well. That depends on this here. So if a woman has this level, which is estrogen too high, she's going to have severe PMS. If the progesterone is not high enough, the ratio under the area under the curve is too tight, she's going to have problems. So these are the things that we look at for women. Again, for a woman, unlike men, we peak in our 20s. Women actually peak in their mid-30s. That's when their highest levels of hormone is in their mid-30s. For men, probably 10 years removed. 25 years old is when we're at the peak. Once we hit 30, we start going downhill. So the question is, how fast you go downhill is a function of lifestyle, genetics, and what you're doing, as far as exercise and diet. So again, for women, we see that. So for women, it's a little bit different. Men, we kind of have a gradual decline. The slope is very predictable. So the symptoms of low testosterone come on very slowly for men, and most men don't even realize they have the symptoms because it's been so slow an onset. Women, on the other hand, fall off a cliff. So their hormones just dump on them, or lack of hormone, and as a result, they get severe symptoms. Hot flash, night sweats, forgetfulness, vaginal dryness. Their symptoms just come all at once, but they dissipate after time. Women are a little more resilient than men. They'll complain initially about the symptoms, but then, unfortunately, they learn to live with it instead of doing something about it. Men, on the other hand, as I said, after the age of 30, we start decreasing. It's a nice gradual line, but again, this line can become more pronounced based on your lifestyle, based on genetics, your activity levels, nutrition, sleep. All these things matter. So by age 45, 40% of men have low testosterone. The number, numerically low testosterone. But they could have symptoms of low testosterone before that, and we'll talk about that. The end result is the same. For women, for men, low estrogen, low progesterone, low testosterone, the symptoms are the same. We complain about the same thing. Irritability, I'm sure some of us know some grumpy old men or some grumpy old women. Poor concentration, foggy thinking, tired, low sex drive, weight gain, inability to sleep, low energy, depression. These are all telltale signs that your hormones are going down. So we already know hormones are going down. The question is, how far are they going down and what can you do about it? So I'm going to focus on men now, because that's what our clinic does. It's primarily we treat men. So there are 3 primary reasons why men show symptoms of low testosterone. So, and these are things that, the first one is obvious. Decrease in your production of testosterone, decrease in your efficiency of testosterone, your body cannot make a proper amount, what you're used to. So this is a very complicated picture here. This is meant to show you how delicate this system is. So the hypothalamus, which is the lower brain, goes to the pituitary, goes to the testes. There's 2 cells, Leydig makes testosterone, sertoli makes sperm. But look at all these outside sources here that have negative and positive effects on this. It is very, very complex and very delicate. Women's system, on the other hand, is much more resilient than men. Women can do all kinds of stuff when they're young and still function properly. Men, if you don't do things correctly, if you're not moving, if you're not eating properly, if you're smoking or not sleeping, all of these things are going to cause problems for you. So you don't have to know all this. You just have to know that we call this an axis, straight line from the lower brain to the testes. We produce testosterone, which is called a prohormone, which means that it produces other active hormones, estradiol and DHT, and sperm, of course. Sperm is negative with a hormone called inhibin. So that's, again, another fertility is a whole different subject. So let me simplify it now. So men convert. Estrogen is just as important for men as it is for women. The only difference is we don't produce as much. We should not produce as much. So it is very common when a gentleman comes in for a blood test, obviously we check the estradiol level. The estrogen comes back normal. So they come in and they say, oh, I'm gaining fat, my sex function is not good, my cognitive function is not good, I'm kind of depressed, my estrogen is too high. We check the estrogen and it's normal. So what's going on here? The problem is the ratio of testosterone to estrogen is too tight. So in my observations, I've been doing this for 20 years, what I look at is the ratio of testosterone to estrogen, and I want that ratio to be above 25. So what does that mean? You should have at least 25 times the amount of testosterone than you do of estrogen. So your estrogen might come back at 30, which is perfect. That's normal estrogen level. But guess what? Your testosterone came back at 300. Now you are estrogen dominant. That means estrogen is taking over your body and it is taking over the function and the actions of the hormone. So we need to increase the testosterone, double it at least, get to 600 or even 800 would be better. Now you are testosterone dominant. That's the way we were when we were young. And when you're testosterone dominant, that's when it's easier to function and you'll get the benefits. So when a young man comes in, when a young man comes in, we're not going to put him on testosterone. Easy. I can put every guy that walks into my door, I can convince them that they need testosterone. But that's not the right way to do it because we're not here to cause harm, we're here to enhance your life. So how can we do that? These are what we call stimulatory hormones. These are signals from the brain that stimulate production of testosterone. If a young man comes in, when I say young man, for me, young man is 45 and under is young because you should have good testicular function. Your body should respond to stimulatory therapy. There are some guys in their 50s who can still function with stimulation. Most guys, over 55, not gonna happen. Go on the TRT train if you need it. So we use stimulation for young guys, and the benefit of that is you use your own testosterone. You use whatever your genetic potential is to maximize what your body can produce. For some men, it's enough. For some men, it's not enough. So we need to pump up the numbers. So, and I'll talk a little the reason why that happens. So this is what we look at before we treat a patient. Keep in mind the most important step in this whole thing about testosterone replacement therapy is the diagnosis. You don't want to be misdiagnosed. You don't want to be given something that you don't need. You don't want to be given something that's not going to have a benefit for you. You want the right medicine at the right time, the right amount. This is in all medicine, this is the way it should be, but unfortunately it's not. Okay, now the other problem of symptoms of low testosterone is increased synthesis of SHBG. Does anybody know what SHBG is, or the significance of it? SHBG means sex hormone binding globulin. Why is that important? As you see here, the older you get, the higher the SHBG goes. What is the significance of that? So this is another parameter that we measure. Every drug, I'm a drug guy, I'm a pharmacologist, so every drug dosing should be based on half-life. Everybody understand what half-life is? The amount of time it takes for half the drug to be gone. So in theory, it takes 5 half-lives to reach steady state. So if your half-life of the drug is 7 days, guess what? It's going to take a month before your body is acclimated and adjust to what you're doing. If you want to stop a drug, how long does it take for it to get out of your body? 5 half-lives, approximately. 98% of the drug is gone. So this is very important, a very important aspect of half-lives. SHBG determines the half-life of testosterone. So I hear about all these, I'm not going to mention names, clinics, people, whatever, injecting testosterone once per week, once every 2 weeks, once a month. Crazy. It's like, would you take amoxicillin once a day for infection? Of course not. You take it according to the half-life because you want to keep levels consistent. The body loves consistency. Everything in life is about consistency. You keep doing something, if it's good, you're going to get a good result. If it's bad, you're going to get a bad result. So there's nothing different in hormone. There's no magic here. So SHBG determines the efficiency of testosterone. How well do you use it? And a peculiar thing you see here, SHBG kind of goes with your age. So when you're 18 to 29, your SHBG, a healthy SHBG, should be about 5, plus or minus 5 your age, whatever your age is. So if you're 40, it should be 35 to 45. That's considered healthy for me. If you're 50, it should be 45 to 55, and so on. The number one reason young men come in to the clinic, and we get a lot of young men, 30 years old, 25 years old, this is the culprit right here, SHBG. SHBG is a very deep function of the liver. Why is that up? Why is this number high on a young person? Well, there's many reasons. Lifestyle is usually it. Recreational drug use, sleep apnea, all kinds of things that could happen that could cause this SHBG to go up. What is the significance? We have 3 levels of testosterone in our body. So I'll put this in financial terms because every man understands finances. If I say your personal wealth is $1 million, okay? If I came up to you and said, give me $1 million, hopefully you cannot give me $1 million because you're diversified, you're not liquid. Your money is tied up with investments and other things. That is your total testosterone. It represents what your body can produce at any given time, but you don't have access to it. The next level is based on a protein called albumin. Again, albumin is in the liver as well. This is like a credit line. So very few people can get 100% of their personal wealth on a credit line. I'm sure there's some people, but most of us normal folks cannot do that. So it's available to you, but it's not so easy. You gotta go fill out paperwork, sign, shake some hands, and then you get your credit line. Okay, this is albumin. It's available to you, but not readily available to you. Albumin levels do not change over the course of your life unless you are very, very careless with your liver and you just like have no regard for it. So my albumin level was 4.1 when I was 25. I'm 55, it's still 4.1. It doesn't change, okay? Now, SHBG, on the other hand, is very delicate. SHBG determines your free testosterone. So we have total testosterone, your personal wealth, bioavailable testosterone, which is your credit line, and free testosterone, which is the cash in your pocket. At any given day, you're only worth what you got in your pocket, right? Someone puts a gun to your head, that's all you got. You have 10 baht, that's what you're worth, 10 baht. They're not gonna wait for you to go get your credit card or whatever. So, SHBG determines the cash in your pocket. The function of SHBG is to bind testosterone, and once it binds testosterone, the testosterone becomes inactive. So obviously the more SHBG you have, the more inactive testosterone you have. So you could have a wonderful number. You have $5 million in the bank, but you don't have access to it. So what good is it? You can't use it. Same thing with the testosterone. And unfortunately, as we get older, SHBG goes up. So let me give you an example. I had a 79-year-old gentleman come in, his testosterone level was almost 1100, which is amazing. But his SHBG was 150. So what does that mean? That means that his free testosterone, which should be between 20 and 25, his free testosterone was 6 or 7, which is like a guy who has 300, because his efficiency was very low because the SHBG was very high. So when the SHBG is high, it's like someone's taking money out of your pocket. So you got cash in your pocket, but someone's taking it. So when you go reach for it, it's gone, it's not there. Now on the contrary, if SHBG is too low, people think, oh, I got more free testosterone and more available. Unfortunately, the body preferentially will get rid of active hormone before inactive. So what does that mean? Your half-life of drug has now been increased or decreased. So in other words, normal half-life is 5 to 7 days, you may be half-life of 2 to 3 days. So that means you're burning through it. So that means you're gonna require more testosterone to keep the levels at it where they should be or to get the benefit. So that's like having a hole in your pocket. You put the money in there, but it's falling down your leg because there's a hole. So there is no advantage to having high SHBG or low SHBG. Unfortunately, the right SHBG is what's important. This number really only matters if you're natural. So if you're not using any kind of hormone or any testosterone, this number is, what your SHBG is very significant. Once you start TRT and we take over the environment in your body, we control the numbers, this becomes less significant. But guys being guys, they're caught up in the numbers. I want to check my SHBG. Did it go down? They don't care about how they feel. They just want to see the number. And we don't treat numbers, we treat patients. Our end game is, are you having a benefit? Are we improving your symptoms? That is the end game, not, oh, we got you to 800, or we got this number low, whatever it may be. That's not the way we treat. Now the last one is very complicated, so I'm going to just briefly talk about this because this is new information that this is where the research is going right now. So if anybody knows anybody who uses testosterone, how many of these guys say, I don't feel anything? I use testosterone, I don't feel any improvement in this, improvement in that. They believe me, I get a lot of these guys, okay? You bring the testosterone level from 300 to 600, you go to 900, I don't feel anything. And you're thinking, how can you not feel anything? I just tripled your testosterone level. You know, what's going on here? The problem lies at the receptor. Everybody knows what a receptor is? A receptor is a landing spot for drugs or for hormones, for anything in the body. So think of my hand as a receptor, 5 fingers. There's 5 places that a hormone, a drug, whatever can land. So normally, lands perfectly, lock and key theory, right? The key fits the lock, boom, you get a response. What happens as we get older, we get changes in our receptor. We call them CAG repeats. Anybody have biology, cytosine, adenine, DNA sequences? boring stuff, but anyways. So what happens, so instead of like this, my hand now becomes like this, like a Vulcan, okay? So now it becomes like this, but the hormone doesn't change. It's still 5-pronged. So now when it comes down, guess what? There's 2 places that it's not touching. So you're not getting a response. Why does this happen? Because there's a change in the structure of the receptor, and as a result of that, you're not going to get the same response as you did when you were younger. So we call this CAG repeat. So the more CAG repeats you have, the greater, well, let me go this way. So this is the key here, inverse correlation. So in other words, the higher the number of the CAG repeats, the less responsive you're going to be to therapy. So who has the highest, who has the lowest, who has the highest? So Africans have the lowest CAG number. What does that mean? They are very responsive to testosterone, to androgen therapy. Caucasian, somewhere in the middle. Latinos are a little bit longer than Caucasian, and then Asians are the longest. So think about this for a second. When you walk into the clinic, I size you up. I look at you. I say, how does he walk? What does he look like? What's his physicality? How does he get out of the chair? How does he move? These are all very important indicators of your health, believe it or not. It's more than just numbers. Like I said, anybody can manipulate numbers. That's easy. The question is, what is your efficiency? How are you using things? So these are the general, and again, this is a new area of research. They've been studying this for Huntington's disease, Kennedy disease. These are muscular diseases. And now they're seeing that this affects the androgen receptor, which is testosterone. And it also affects women as well. Women have androgen receptors, as well as men. Not as many as we do, but they have them. So these are the areas where we see the CAG repeat effect. Prostate cancer. So the initial findings are now, the least amount of CAG repeats you have, the more prone you are to prostate cancer, aggressive form, earlier onset. So let's look at epidemiology studies. African Americans have the highest incidence of prostate cancer. Dementia. Psychiatric disorders. The longer you have, the more chance that's going to happen. Hypogonadism. The longer you have, the more chance that you're going to feel symptoms of low testosterone. So these are all preliminary, but this is the direction of where we're going, so that we can really fine-tune hormone therapy. You cannot check your CAG repeat in Thailand. I'm sure you can do it at your home country, but you can't do it here. And really, there's no reason to do it because we don't know enough what to do. So what? Your number comes back at 18. Okay, now what do we do? So if any of you are familiar with CRISPR technology, where they change the genetic sequence, the DNA sequence, this will be very important for this. And it'll make drugs more efficient for people in the future. They're already doing it in China, of course. But hopefully it trickles down to Western countries as well. So, again, this is just the reason why CAG is so important. And if any of you are interested in this, I mean, trust me, I could bore you about all this. Science geeks, we like this kind of stuff. But the take-home message is, there are some genetic factors that you cannot control that make you the way you are. It's not an excuse. You can always try to, go past your genetics, but there are reasons. Because when I started this, 20 years ago, I'd always wonder, why are guys complaining? They don't feel anything. What the hell? What's going on? Now I know why. Now I'm more understanding. So people with the CAG repeats require higher doses. So this is where I'm saying about the numbers. If the normal range is to 1,200, if I got to run you at 1,400, 1,500, then so be it. That's what I run you at. Because the end game is, do you feel better? Are you getting a benefit from it? Okay, so now that you have all this information, now you're going to ask yourself, why should I replace testosterone? Why should I be so concerned about keeping my testosterone levels at optimal levels. Normal range is 350 to 1200. In the US, that's the numbers we use. I don't know if any of you have tested your testosterone. When I first came to Thailand, the range was 300 to 850. That was 2012. Now the range is 220 to 700. The range just keeps getting shorter and shorter. Why is that? You know, I mean, these are questions you got to ask. Why is the range getting shorter, but yet men are men? The reason is because the way we get results, reference ranges, is statistical analysis. So obviously, if the population has lower testosterone levels, the range is going to be lower. So sure, there are always outliers outside the bell-shaped curve, but most people fall inside the bell-shaped curve. So in the US, and I'm sure in other countries they do this as well, they just kind of throw that out the window. In fact, men today, if we compare you to men 50 years ago, our testosterone levels are lower than men same age as us 50 years ago. And every year it's getting lower and lower. Why is that? Lifestyle, pollution, xenoestrogens, plastic bottles, phytoestrogens, plant, soy products. There's all kinds of things that are causing our testosterone to go down. So these are all reasons why you should use testosterone. I'm going to emphasize this one here, increasing muscle strength. And people say, why? Because out of all these things here, the most objective result is muscle strength. Nobody can deny, and this is what I tell every patient coming. I don't know what your expectation for sexual function is. I have no idea. Your expectation is different than mine. What needs to satisfy you may be higher or lower than what needs to satisfy me. Your well-being, how you feel, are you happy? Again, that's subjective. I don't know what makes you happy, just you don't know what makes me happy. But one thing is for certain. If you can lift 20 kilograms, that is very objective. If you couldn't do it before, now you can lift 20 kilograms. So I emphasize muscle strength because it is 100% objective. I tell every guy, go lift weights. That's what guys do, we lift heavy stuff. And heavy is a relative term. Heavy means whatever puts stress for you on your system. Doesn't mean you gotta lift what the guy next to you lifts, it just means lift something that puts stress on your pituitary gland to promote hormone production. So, lifting weights. What are the benefits of that? Well, number one, freedom. You're self-sufficient. Get out of the chair with no problem. Get in and out of the car. Jump on a curb. Get on a bus. No problem. People aren't waiting for you. These are all the reasons. Don't slip in the shower. You know, be able to go up and down stairs, no problem. This is freedom. This is, we take for granted when we're young that we can do all these things. And guess what? One day you wake up, oh, my back hurts, my knee is bad, my back is bad, whatever it is. So you start being preventative by keeping, it doesn't mean you have to build muscle, you have to maintain muscle on your body. So, arthritis. Who gets arthritis? Older people, right? Why? Well, several reasons. One is genetic, but most of it is because our bone is meant to support. Muscle is meant to function. But when you lose muscle, guess what? Now bone is functioning, no longer supporting anymore. So now you're putting undue stress on your bone, on your joint, then you're gonna get arthritis. Estrogen. The lower your testosterone, the lower your estrogen. What does estrogen do? Estrogen pulls water into the joints, lubricant. So if you have low estrogen, which a lot of guys do because their testosterone is so low, now you have arthritis. Number one reason why women should keep their estrogen levels at optimal, osteoporosis. Sure, you can take other medications that solely promote bone health, but they have a lot of side effects. And I'm a firm believer that you should always use the minimum effective dose for anything. If it says take it every day, maybe you don't need it every day. Maybe 3 times a week, whatever it is. You consult with your doctor about this, but I'm just a believer that, especially when it comes to hormone, you don't need, more does not mean better. More usually means more side effects and causes problems. So, When you have good muscle, you have good circulation, right? The smooth muscle on your body increases blood flow, which increases your immune system. These are all good things. Building muscle, you feel good, you look good, you live longer. So for men, confidence is very important. It's important for women too, but the theme that I hear from men most is waning confidence. Side effects. So there's really only 2 absolute side effects in testosterone. 100% every man who uses testosterone will have these side effects. The first one is suppressing your natural function. In other words, if you were making 300, when you want testosterone, let's say we raise you to 900, your testosterone is about 50. We call it chemical castration. We bring your levels down to a castration level. That's for sure. It happens with every single guy who uses testosterone. The other for sure is suppression of fertility. So if you're planning to have children, then we have to treat you a different way. And there are ways to bypass that. There are ways to bypass the suppression, and we'll talk about that at the end of the slides. So those are the only 2 absolute side effects. Everything else is nonsense, unproven. Testosterone causes cancer. Yeah, sure. Testosterone causes high estrogen. Well, sure, it can, if you're not watching it, if you're not controlling it. Testosterone causes polycythemia. Of course, if you're not monitoring the right things, these are all things that could happen. My favorite one, roid rage. Okay, as we say, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear here, but okay, if you're an idiot before, you're an idiot after. Testosterone, anabolic steroids don't make you an idiot. Okay, that's just natural. That's God's gift to you. So, BPH symptoms, urinary symptoms, preventable. Okay, these are easy things to prevent. Water retention, okay, preventable. Increased prostate activity, normal. So again, the PSA is a number. We say less than 4. Do you know how many guys I have in my practice that are their levels are 5, 6, 7, 8? Do I freak out? No, because they have a range. Their range may be 4 to 8 to 10, and as long as they stay in their range, I'm good with it. No problem. So again, we're not treating numbers. Biopsies greater than 90% of all prostate biopsies are negative. Has anybody ever had a biopsy? It's not a very comfortable thing to do. And I don't, if we can avoid that, please avoid it. It's not something you want to do. So here we go. We know that testosterone can, if you have malignant cells in your body, I don't know if I do, maybe I do. Maybe you do, who knows? Nobody knows they have cancer until you got cancer. So I'm not going to live my life on the edge worrying about, am I going to get cancer? Because we've treated thousands of men over the years. None of them have gotten cancer, prostate cancer. 0, none. So, because we screen properly. All right, so this is my favorite part. So what do you do now? Do nothing, accept your life. Getting old sucks. Can't do this, can't do that. It's okay to be a grouchy old man. Or, number 2 is my favorite one. Everybody's got the friend, right? The friend who knows everything. I need it, trust me. The trainer, he said do this. My friend said inject this twice a day. The pharmacy said do this. If you want to live your life like that, that's fine. But usually these guys always show up at my doorstep with a problem, always. PSA through the roof, estrogen through the roof, polycythemia, you name it. Prolactin high. They have more side effect than benefit. So that's option 2. So do nothing, do the wrong thing, or do the right thing. The right, and I'm not promoting my facility, but I'll say that we are the only TRT only clinic. That's all we do. We're not a jack of all trades. We're a master at what we do. This is all we do. Thousands of guys from around the world we take care of. Remotely and here in Pattaya, in Bangkok. But you got to do the work too. You have to arm yourself with knowledge. Don't go in there and listen to everything I say, oh yeah, I believe that. No. Who said, I don't know who said it, Reagan or someone. Trust but verify. Verify everything I'm telling you here, if you remember, you wrote it down. Please, I want you to verify. Because everything that I present to you is science-based, evidence-based medicine. Not bro science, not what my friend told me or what this guy said happened. I can prove everything that I'm saying up here with a study, with a result, whatever it is. So it's up to you to empower yourself to be knowledgeable about this. And you should do this with everything, not just hormone. If you have diabetes, empower yourself with blood pressure. Whatever it is, don't just take medicine because a doctor told you to take the medicine. You gotta know how the medicine works, why you're taking it. You gotta monitor your blood pressure, check your sugar levels. Don't just blindly take stuff. My first car when I was young was a 65 convertible Bug, and the gas gauge didn't work. So, you know, what could possibly go wrong, right? So every time we drove somewhere, we're stuck because the gas gauge was broken. I never knew how far we could go. Then finally we came up with a system that, okay, when the car got faster, we knew the gas was low because there's less weight in the car. The point is, why would you take medicine that lowers your blood pressure if you don't know what exactly it's doing? You don't know what direction you're going. Why would you take diabetes medication if you don't know if is it actually lowering my sugar, or am I just taking it to take it because they told me to do it? So you always have to be an active participant, especially in hormone. It's not a spectator sport. You got to get in the game. Don't be afraid to get in the game. And the more you know, the better result you're going to get. Easier my job is because I'm not lecturing on deaf ears. But it's always better for you to know what's going on. So before, men 60 to 69 years old used to be the seeking TRT the most. Then of course 50 to 59 and so on and so forth. 20 to 39, we'd expect them to be the least amount. Who do you think is the fastest rising group now that seeks TRT? And why? These guys, young men, are coming in droves. Why is that? Well, anabolic steroid use. They all want to be big, swole, whatever. They wanted. There's a very bad case of narcissism going around the world today. Facebook, Instagram, everybody wants to be, the most muscular guy, and as a result of that, they're going to go to extremes to get it, using anabolic steroids without medical supervision, and for the ultimate goal, to get bigger, to get stronger. So this group, 20 to 39, is probably the fastest rising group of people that come in. And then I would say 50 to 59, my age range, is probably the most. You have to remember, here in Pattaya, the needs are different. So back in the United States, most men just wanted to function better at work. They wanted to feel better with their relationship, with their kids, daily life. That was the primary goal. What do you think the primary goal is here in Thailand? Any guesses? Sexual function, exactly. That is the number one driving force that bring men into my clinic. Nothing wrong with that. God knows we didn't have sex in America. So the question is, does testosterone help erectile dysfunction? Well, the short answer is yes, but it's much more complicated than that. The problem with erectile dysfunction is it's a lot of moving parts. It's not just hormone low, raise the hormone, and everything's going to work again. You have to get the underlying problem. So if we look at the underlying problem, 40% of ED is caused by vascular problems. What's a vascular problem? High blood pressure, diabetes can be kind of categorized as that. Diabetes is here, which causes vascular problems, kidney problems. Medication, when you take medication to treat high blood pressure and diabetes, it causes ED. Pelvic surgery, that's kind of a wild card. Neurological, that's trauma. So basically, 85% of the cause of ED is because people are not having a good lifestyle. Sure, some people have bad genetics and they have high blood pressure or heart disease or whatever, but most of these things, for the majority of people, These things are preventable. And the question is, do you choose to prevent it? So how does testosterone play in this? Well, testosterone can lower vascular inflammation. The endothelial cells of the vascular system are inflamed. That's how you get heart disease. But testosterone can reduce that. Testosterone can make insulin work better, more efficiently. So if you reduce inflammation, you make insulin more sensitive, you exercise, then you need less medication. So potentially you can wipe out 85% of the cause of ED. So testosterone indirectly can prevent ED, not directly. Guys think it's a miracle drug. They come in, oh, raise my testosterone levels, my erectile function comes back. That's unfortunately, that's not the way it works. It's a concerted effort of everything, lifestyle. And don't be afraid, unless your doctor, if you're a nitrates or your doctor, your cardiologist specifically said, don't use Viagra, don't use Cialis. Don't be afraid to use these things. There's no such thing as overdosing on Viagra or Cialis. You hear these stories about guys dropping dead because they took too many Viagra or Cialis. That's not the reason why. They dropped dead because they overexerted themselves. Their heart could not handle the physical activity that was going on at the time. It has nothing to do with the Viagra. So if you have a clean bill of health, you've done stress tests, and your heart can handle the exercise, so to speak, go for it. No problem. But of course, use everything responsibly. I'm not saying take 200 milligrams of Viagra. But I'm just saying if you have no restrictions from your doctor, it's okay. It's not a problem. Because Viagra and Cialis actually help you when you work out. You increase, because remember, you're not only increasing blood flow to the penis, you're increasing blood flow to your muscles, to your heart, to the brain, everywhere. It's like exercise in a pill. The same reason you go do cardio, right? You increase blood flow to the heart, makes the heart work better. Cialis and Viagra can also lessen the lower urinary tract symptoms, frequent urination. So, what time you check your testosterone is very important. Not so important for us old guys, but for young guys, very important. It all depends on your testicular function. You should get it done in the morning. I don't like this term, old man. I think we should use mature men or something. Anyways, as we see, young men, they peak in the morning. So we usually draw blood around 8 o'clock or so because that's what time we open. I can't get a nurse to come in earlier than that. So we take it around 8 o'clock. And for most men, when we say old men, I guess I'm in this category now. Anybody over 50 is an old man. So for old men, again, it depends on if you have comorbidities, in other words, diabetes, high blood pressure, this doesn't really matter what time you come in. But if you're otherwise healthy, you should probably come in the morning. No sex the night before because sex increases testosterone levels. No alcohol because alcohol increases estrogen and decreases testosterone. Make sure you get a good night's sleep, and of course fasting. Food doesn't really affect your testosterone level, but it affects the other parameters, your lipids and thyroid function and those type of things. So we usually have people be fasted. But once you're using testosterone, it doesn't matter. So there is only one absolute contraindication. If you have active prostate cancer, of course, cannot use testosterone. But if you are a cancer survivor, you had resection of the prostate or removal of the prostate, you could use testosterone, no problem. We monitor you, we still look at the PSA because you worry about metastasis of the cancer, and the PSA becomes a more important marker for these gentlemen. So, just an FYI, we have a urologist that comes into our practice in Bangkok and in Pattaya. She comes in once a month, and we offer the service free to our customers, to our patients, active patients, and you can discuss urological problems, or if we see potential urological problems, you can just once a month you can come in and talk to her. And the beauty of it is, she worked with me several years ago when she was a resident. She knows what we do. You don't have to go and explain, well, I'm taking testosterone, I'm taking estrogen blocker, and they look at you, what the hell are you talking about? She knows everything that we do because she trained under me. And she knows my methods and how we do it. So that's another advantage. So we try to offer complete, total care because I'm a stickler. I need things to be done right. I'm not reckless when it comes to these type of things. And some people probably say I'm too much, too anal retentive, obsessive, compulsive, whatever you want to say, but that's the way we do it. So, elevated hematocrit, which means percentage of red blood cells, easy to fix. We do a blood donation. Pre-existing sleep apnea. Does everybody know what sleep apnea is? Majority of the men who come into our clinic have sleep apnea. Majority of the men are not treated or in denial about it. These are the common. Let's get that. So I ask them, do you snore? No. So if someone says no right away, okay, it's a red flag. Okay. Only when I drink alcohol. Okay, really? A little bit. I don't have no idea what that means. A little bit. How would I know? I sleep alone. I don't. My wife doesn't complain. That's a great one. Of course she doesn't complain. This one, when you ask the wife or the girlfriend, snore my. So every man is in denial. Every man snores. The question is, what severity do you snore? Is it mild? Is it moderate? Is it severe? So you got to be honest with yourself. Testosterone, when you start testosterone therapy, testosterone is a central relaxant, which means it works in the brain. It relaxes smooth muscle in the body. So guess what happens? It collapses the respiratory system. So if you were a moderate snorer, guess what? Now you are a severe snorer. If you were a mild snorer, now you're a moderate snorer. That's just the nature of testosterone. So I recommend everybody get a sleep study done. The majority of men have problems with sleep. It doesn't mean it's sleep apnea. You should get it checked out. Why are you not sleeping? You know, why is it a problem? So we always hear, oh, it's just part of getting older, you sleep less. I don't know. I don't accept those type of things. I don't accept anything because I'm getting older. That's just me, though. And you shouldn't accept it either. There's no reason why you can't do the things that you did if you want to do them. Don't use age as an excuse because that's just a way out. So sleep is a very important one. Now we have, soon, we'll have access to CBD oil. If anybody doesn't know what CBD oil is, it's hemp oil. Hemp oil is very effective for sleep. Doesn't have THC, there's no marijuana in there, you're not going to be doped out, nothing like that. It just has a very strong effect on relaxation. The good news is that will be available soon. It's better than taking Ambien or these other heavy-duty drugs that they prescribe freely. It's much better than taking those things because we know what the side effects of hemp oil is. Good mood, joint relief, better sex, good sleep. Those are pretty good side effects. So greater than 60% of guys don't get sleep study. Has anybody in here got a sleep study? Okay, a few of you. I did a sleep study. So, I mean, I'm going to practice what I preach. So everything here, I do everything that we do here. So I can speak from experience. So I'm not just telling you do this, do that. You know, so you know. These are all the problems sleep apnea. Hypertension could cause heart attack, stroke, memory loss, diabetes. Nothing good here. There's nothing good here. Sleep is our opportunity for maintenance of the body. That's the purpose. When you're 60 years old, you spend 20 years sleeping, 1/3 of your life sleeping. Don't you want to make it worth it? Don't you want to get a benefit out of it? A good indicator is to look at your blankets when you wake up in the morning. If your blankets are a mess, guess what? You're not sleeping. If your blankets look like you didn't even sleep there, then you're a pretty good sleeper. That's the easiest indicator. So, again, I recommend all men should get a sleep study done because this is what kills us, right here, snoring. It kills women too, but it kills more men. When do heart attacks happen the most? In the morning. Is that coincidence? I don't know. So sleep, very important. It costs about 15,000 baht at Bangkok Pattaya Hospital. You spend a night in the hospital, they hook you up like Frankenstein, they look at your saturation rates, and they see how many disruptions you have during sleep. Because if you're not getting into the REM cycle, if you're not getting into stage 4, you're going to wake up tired, and that's another thing. We start a guy on testosterone and, oh, I feel tired, I feel like I have no energy. Well, guess what? You're not sleeping. If you wake up with a stuffy nose or dry mouth, guess what? You're snoring. So these are the things that fixable. Everything here is fixable if you decide to fix it. So get back to this. This is how we treat the testosterone. So you convert to estrogen, you convert to DHT. DHT is important. It causes muscle density, male pattern baldness, acne. It affects the prostate. So all of these are equally important. So I briefly spoke about this earlier, fertility and testicular function. So I lied to you before. I said you have 3 levels of testosterone. You actually have 4. The 4th one is intratesticular testosterone. You know what that means? The level of testosterone inside the testicle. Why is that important? Because that's where fertility and function happens in there. So, inside the testes, LH makes testosterone. When it makes testosterone, that testosterone not only goes in the periphery, but it also stays in the testes to produce sperm. It's actually more important than FSH. It has a more pronounced effect on sperm production than FSH. So, if you take, as you can see, the concentration of testosterone in the testicle is 100 times greater than your systemic level. So if I took your blood and your level is 100, guess what? Your level is going to be 100 times greater if I were to take your level to intratesticularly. You ever wonder, well, I wondered this when I first came to Battaglia. I saw older gentlemen with young women, hot young women, having kids. And these guys look like they're gonna how could these guys have kids? Their testosterone is no way high. The answer is their intratesticular testosterone is high. Their systemic testosterone may not be high. It's probably low, so they're going to show someone with low testosterone, but intratesticular testosterone is very high, so they're very fertile. So they can get these young girls pregnant, have babies, no problem. That's why men, if they're healthy, can have kids to the end of time. A little bit different for women, because women stop producing eggs during menopause. So, if you start taking testosterone, this number goes down. So now you've lost fertility, you've lost testicular function. So we make an intervention with something called HCG. Anybody know what HCG is? Human chorionic gonadotropin. I'm a firm believer in always keeping the parts moving. What does that mean? We have testosterone, we have LH and FSH for a reason. We have testicular function for a reason. Even though you're using testosterone, keep the parts moving in the background. It's like having an old car. I have a 69 280 SL. I tell my dad to drive it every day because you know these old cars, if you let it sit there like a garage queen, the gaskets are going to dry out, oil's going to leak. So I implore my dad, please drive this damn thing every time you go out for a drive. Because if he doesn't, it's going to, when I go back home, it's going to be worthless. So we give HCG. As you can see, the intratesticular level, the green, goes back up to normal. It's very important. So what does that mean? Men who want to have children can have best of both worlds. You can use testosterone and still have fertility. On the second count, to keep your testicular function working in the background, very important. Keep the parts moving. And this is on our website. The question I always get is, how long does it take for this to happen? How long does it take for this effect to happen? Most things you got to give a fair trial of about 3 months. Give a 3-month trial, and that's when things start changing. So the analogy I use is, when you're doing testosterone replacement therapy or any hormone therapy, it's like a remodel. Remodels don't get done in a week, 2 weeks. Hell, we've been doing a remodel for 6 months now, still not done. But the point is, when you do a remodel, you're knocking down walls, you're building stuff, you're not just like putting carpet or wallpaper on there, you're doing some serious things. It takes time. So same thing with hormone. You're changing the environment in your body. Your body has to acclimate to this new environment. It has to accept it. And in most instances, that could be up to 3 months. But a lot of these benefits can take up to 36 months to get the full benefit, for instance. So increased bone density takes up to 3 years to get the full benefit. So it varies from person to person, and like everything else, you gotta be consistent. And at the end of the day, if you decide to use testosterone or decide not to use it, like every decision in life, it's based on risk versus benefit, right? Every decision we make in life is risk versus benefit. Clearly identify the benefit if you think there is a benefit. We already know the risks. The risks are decreased fertility, well, I can fix that. Decreased function, I can fix that. Those are the only risks. Every other risk is benign in my book. It's not there because it's not proven. What are the benefits? Well, like I said earlier, what are you willing to do? You have to step back, look at your life and say, okay, I should fix that a little bit better. I could be doing that better. Don't do so much of that. It's an individual choice. And the more you do, the more you're a participant, less a spectator, the better results you're going to get. That's it. Any questions? Nope.
No question?
All right, thank you. Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah, after you start this, let's say the person does it for 2 years, what happens when they stop after 2 years?
So you are in a suppressed state. Remember I used the example. Let's say we keep your levels at 900. Your levels are about 50, your own production. Now, if you don't use HCG, your function is dormant. It's going to take about 9 months for your levels to get back to where they were before you started. So it's going to be a miserable 9 months because you're going to feel like low testosterone. If you use HCG, you're going to cut that in half. HCG is going to keep your function going on in the background. What we do is, there's a protocol called PCT, post-psychotherapy. So every bodybuilder out there, if they know what they're doing, they use high-dose anabolic steroid and then they do a recovery process. The purpose of the recovery process is to stimulate their own testosterone to get the function back. We do the same thing with guys on TRT, but of course not as aggressive because you're only taking testosterone. You're not taking crazy anabolic steroids. So that doesn't mean every guy does it, but we recommend that you do some form of post-psychotherapy recovery so we can get you back on your feet within 6 weeks. You're going to be back where you were. And during that 6 weeks of recovery, it's not going to be so bad. But if you just stop cold turkey, which a lot of guys do for whatever reason, you're not going to be feeling good. Yes?
What is the cost of the initial valuation and monthly, whatever testosterone levels you maintain at?
I hate talking about money. But anyway, we require a blood test of everybody. You fill out an evaluation form. If you want to just come in and talk, free. That's easy. The blood test, we charge 8,000 baht, and so we get a lot of guys coming in. I want to check my testosterone level. What information can you possibly get from a testosterone level? You want to know. Let me tell you this. Okay. You want to know how this is functioning here. Very important. So, as I said to you earlier, diagnosis is the most important step. You don't want to take something that you don't need. You want to take something that's going to have a benefit and not have a risk. And so the 8,000 baht, we cover everything. We check all metabolic parameters, thyroid function, lipids, kidney function, liver function, CBC, all your hormones, how they relate to your status, where you are now. I hear guys say, oh, I could go to the lab near Tony's gym. Okay, great. Go have a lab technician, give you a printout. Oh, you're in normal range. You're in normal range. We talk exactly what that range means to where you are based on your evaluation form, based on what your goals are, what you want. It's very specific. It's not, read this handout, this will tell you you're in normal range. Because how many times, those of you who have tested your testosterone level, the range is quite large, right? So depending on where you go, let's say it's 350 to 1200. You go in and your level comes back to 400. Oh, you're normal. You're 400, you're within normal range. Really? I mean, this is the mentality of most of the doctors. You may be within normal range, but you're not at optimal range. For me, optimal range is 750 to 1100, depending on comorbidities and other disease states. So, as far as monthly programs go, 9, 8, 10? No, that's okay. I believe they start at 10,000, which includes all medication, supervision, and we check your blood every month. And we do any adjustments necessary, medical certificates when you travel. Right now, majority of our patients are remote. They're in the UK, they're in the US, they're in Vietnam, they're living somewhere else. And so we are able to provide that.
Thank you for a wonderful world-class talk. That's really awesome.
One more.
We're really short on time. Could you ask them afterwards, Richard, because we're pushed for time. Would that be okay?
Yes.
Thanks, man. Who's taking the picture? Okay. You going to take a picture, Grant, of us? Okay, but this is just a little thing to hang on your wall to say that you've been here and that you give us a talk.
Thank you, appreciate it.
In fact, I didn't shake that.
Many years ago.
He's also played vibes.
55. Who's counting? Okay. Thanks for
Okay, this is a bonus day for us. We've got a second speaker that's not going to talk a long time. He just needs to make an announcement. I believe